Hello, Compsonauts. Today, we are going to be exploring what Reddit ask. Do you know of someone who ruined their life in just a matter of minutes? If so, how did they do it? Answer: one guy I went to high school with was kicked out of his college and moved back home. After some time of living at home, his dad walked into his bedroom and went off about him being a lazy ass and needing to do something with his life. He decided he was going to take his gun and rob a bank. Supposedly, the gun wasn't loaded, but he did successfully rob the bank and get away. Some time went by. He moved out of his parents' house and started living it up. He eventually told someone he trusted. That person turned him in. He was arrested and charged. He got a count for every person who was in the bank because he had a gun. You can decide if he ruined his life when he decided to rob the bank or when he decided to tell someone that he did it. Answer 2. Some guy tried to come into my nightclub when he was clearly too drunk. I made the call to not let him in, so he starts shouting at me and tries to aggressively walk up to me. I put my hands up in defense and he's pushing back against me. Then the dude lunged at my boss next to me, so my boss shoves him. The guy tumbles backwards and slams the back of his head on a curb, paralyzed from the neck down forever. Tried to take my boss to court for $15 million, but the camera showed this guy instigating everything. Answer 3. Oakland police chief did a hit-and-run over the weekend on a parked, unattended vehicle in his department vehicle. By the end of the day, Tuesday, he was resigning. State police investigated and issued a bunch of summary offense citations. DUI was not among the charges. 01 was hurt and the guy resigned. But, you know, there's only one reason you drive away from hitting something after midnight. Answer 4. When I was in my early 20s, I worked as an energy worker in field service. One of my really close friends was someone who I was on calls with regularly. A project lead pressured both of us to work on equipment we weren't qualified or trained to work on, and we unfortunately relented. We were halfway done with the task and I walked out to the truck to grab water bottles. Halfway to the truck, I hear a giant buzz, then a huge bang, then screaming. By the time I get back to the generator room, he's fully on fire. The cabinet had arc blasted, and he had been right in the way. By the time I got our fire blanket from the truck, he was basically fully engulfed. I was able to put him out and get him into as much of a recovery position as I could, and then I called our shop to get them to organize rescue to our location. He somehow survived 80 to 90% second and third degree burns, but coded so many times, he ended up with severe brain damage from oxygen deprivation. He lost his eyes, his sense of smell and taste, and much of his sense of touch. I think he lost his hearing too from the noise of it too. He's in a vegetative state in a full-time care facility now. I had frequent nightmares for years about it. The thing that stuck with me the most was, since the arc blast had hit him basically right in the face, it basically boiled his skin off. I ran in and saw him ripping large pieces of his face off while he tried to bat the flames off. The smell and sight of that never goes away. Answer 5. Pretty successful woman at a company I worked got drunk, took an Uber home from a party, realized she left the keys to her apartment behind, so she decided to climb up to her second-story balcony to get her spare set. She slipped, paralyzed herself, couldn't work for a year, racked up ridiculous medical debt, and the pandemic left her position useless, so she was let go.
Someone answer.
Oh man, something similar happened to my neighbor in high school. We lived on the 3rd floor of an apartment building and she had been drinking at a party and forgot her keys. Decided to try and climb from the stairwell across to her balcony to try and sneak in and fell. She broke her arms, wrists, legs, and messed something up in her back, I think. I remember her mom knocking on our door the next morning to ask if we'd heard any of it. She spent her junior year in a wheelchair, but she was pretty lucky, and I think she healed up okay.
Answer 6. Security company. This happened before I worked there, but some coworkers told me the story. Guy was doing well at his job, got lots of promotions, on his way to lieutenant, but was too into his job and got a police scanner that he would listen to. One day, just as he was getting off work, a high-speed chase went by. He hoped in his personal vehicle with his firearm, got to the front of the chase, blocked the suspect in, and pulled his gun. Suddenly, the cops were much more interested in the crazy guy with a gun, got hit with several felony charges. Answer 7. A neighbor, his wife and his friend, and friend's wife, were at the neighbor's house. The two men both got into arguments with their wives and decided to go out drinking down the street. A few hours later, I'm woken up by my sister banging on my bedroom door. I was staying with them at the time because a car crashed doing probably 80 in a 25-mile-per-hour right next to our home. I jumped out of bed and got outside to see the neighbor's car crashed into a tree and two men trapped inside. The tree the car hit stopped them from ramming into another neighbor's house, and they hit it so hard the battery was in the street after ours. Their car caught fire, and we had to watch them burn to death. Still see it and smell it every now and then when trying to sleep. I had never met the wife, so I had no idea who she was when she came up and asked me what happened. So I said some guy crashed his car. She took off running after she recognized the car. Can't believe I told her that her husband died so bluntly. Answer 8. A guy my mom had gone on a couple of dates with was distraught when she broke it off with him. The reason being his alcoholism. She was raised by a drunk and didn't want her kids exposed to it. He was so upset that he decided to go to his sister's house a few miles away to drown his sorrows. In his drunken state, he decided to drive back to our apartment and beg my mom to take him back. On his way there, he hit a family of 3 with his pickup truck. The parents survived, but the 5-year-old little boy was killed. I don't remember the guy really. Steve something, I'm pretty sure, but I'll never forget that little boy I never met. His name was Alex Bishop, and he died in Kent, Washington. This happened in 1992, and I still think of him and his parents suffering fairly often. I was 13, and it traumatized me, knowing that I had met someone who killed a baby. The POS did 10 years in prison for vehicular homicide. Apparently, he also had a 5-year-old son. I openly talk shit to and about anyone who is willing to risk others around them by driving under the influence. Hey you, if you're enjoying the video, subscribe for more histories. Answer 9. My father punched a window out of anger, severed the artery and ligament in his bicep, almost bled out, effectively removed his ability to work with his hands, which was the one thing he had going for him. He then became a moody pos alcoholic. Actually, he always was one, but way worse after this. He then beat the neighbor across the road with a pipe after they got drunk and got into an argument. He was arrested and went to jail. My parents lost the family home. They ended up splitting. I went no contact with him. 2 years later, he took his life. Answer 10. There's a guy I went to school with, super smart, full ride to a good college out of state. We were seniors at the time, so 2019-ish. We had a guy come in and give us a presentation on World War II stuff, including some guns that had the firing pins taken out. Dude took a picture of one as it was being passed around and posted it on Snapchat with the caption, "Don't come to school tomorrow." He got suspended, lost his scholarship, and we never really heard from him again. He's still alive, a fake, but he's keeping his head down. Answer 11. For some reason that I cannot begin to comprehend, the school bus driver in our small village used to let 2 brothers out on one side of the railroad tracks, even though they lived on the other side of the railroad tracks. The older brother, 16, liked the thrill of beating the train by running across the tracks if a train was coming. You could hear the train, as it would blow its horn coming into the village, but not see the train until you were right up on the tracks due to village buildings' proximity to the tracks. One day, as he sprinted across, there was a second train coming from the opposite direction, on a second set of tracks. So the younger brother, and all the remaining students on the bus, watched as not 1 but 2 trains obliterated this young man. Life. This one I say with a heavy heart. Answer 12. He picked a fight in basic training. Stupid pecking order, alpha male bullshit, got his head slammed into the corner of a wall locker, which broke through his temple. Think he was in the hospital for 3 or 4 months. Not sure how disabled he ended up being. Don't fight for your pride, guys. Be friendly, humble, and scarily accurate at the range. Answer 13. My brother. He had 5 kids and a wife and some rage issues. About 25 years ago, he was at his son's soccer game, and one of the other dads struck up a conversation about soccer with my brother's wife. My brother fucking lost his mind. He punched that guy, grabbed his wife by the hair and dragged her to his truck. Several witnesses testified about this later. Once they were home, he entered the kitchen, shoved his wife up against the fridge, and strangled her to death. The kids testified to this. He then loaded the kids into his truck, grabbed his rifle, and headed toward the city where his plan was to kill me, our father, his kids, and then himself, to spare them all from the shame. Thankfully, he had threatened this many times to many people. Traffic was shit that day, and he was intercepted by police. He served 20+ years of his sentence. I testified twice as his parole hearings, trying to prevent him from getting out because I knew what he was and always would be. He was eventually released but died 2 days later in a car accident.
That was enough for today, Cosmonaut. I'll wait for you in the next travel.